Well, I'm going to talk just a little bit about my dear cousin Bodie. We've been partners in crime since we were about 2 or 3 years old. And we were running a big crew on a big outfit when we were, how old, 7 or 8. And we've been a lot of miles together. And fortunately, we met the Gardiner family when Bodie and I were off on one of our bull buying trips. And that's how this family has become more than, much more than a source for cattle and bulls. It's been a great source of a tremendous friendship that we've enjoyed for over 30 years and done quite a little bit of business. But Bodie, you want to tell them just a little bit about our great-granddad and how he got here?
Yes, sir. He came from down there around San Saba, Land Passes. They came out here, and the first trip they came with a little bunch of cows, they got over here close to the Comanche Springs, and the Indians talked them out of their cattle, told them they could stay or the cattle or leave and go home without them. So they decided to go back, and they came back out here in 1884.
Well, I tell you what, the Indians told our great-grandfather they were going to either take the cow or kill him. And he said, well, he said, just take the cow. He said, that's the easiest decision he ever made. You know? So, really, I guess, you know, notwithstanding the drought, we've always, pretty much always been a cow-calf outfit, even from our great-grandfather. Our grandfathers ran primarily cows and calves, some yearlings from time to time, but never big emphasis on that. And we're the same way today, you know. And like I said, Bodie and I traveled earlier on pretty extensively, trying to realize what we could get from good genetics. You know, Bodie especially is probably more conscious of that than I have been, but you know, we worked very diligently to get the genetics, and it's been both of our paths to lean more towards the female side. I think we've always kind of just thought our steers as a byproduct, but we were always really interested in a really feminine type heifer. And through the bulls, we've always picked bulls that were low birth weight, but still had the ability to gain. And I think, you know, before, there's a lot of people that can talk about the scientific side of this much better than I, Bodie being one, and certainly Mark here. But, you know, I think if you'll just stop and look and see what the country looks like, you saw half a day of it today, it's horrible. And I think if you saw the cows, you saw those heifer calves over there at Bodie's a while ago, and not to be egotistical in any way, but those are nice heifer calves. And they were born in a drought. Their mothers have been in a drought most of their lives. These cattle breed, they walk, they can get around. You'll see them on top of the hills. And if a cow can't get around in this country, she's no use to us. I don't care what kind of calf she is, what her EPDs are, or her sire's EPDs, or you forget all that. They've got to be able to walk, rustle, breed back. We've always been very conscious, and early on we were brutal with cows that didn't breed.
Well, on your heifer deal too, if you really concern yourself with that female side, and we've had to get rid of so many older cows that we have as good a product as you can get, we think. It's young. I mean, it just, you know, you try to save them till the very last to get rid of, and that's helped us, because we'd have just had to get rid of everything and start all over, and you know, it wouldn't have been a good deal.
We've had to be very critical all the time just ranching in this country.
You've had some other breed types and some other cattle, and you know, oftentimes from our country, we, we'll hear that Angus cattle. I mean, Angus cattle have worked okay for you here.
Oh, absolutely.
And you would have, when you were a kid, you had some Brahman influence and some Hereford influence, and
you know, I'll just say this about Bodie's granddad and his dad. They were pioneers. You know, they had Hereford cows. They put Brahman bulls on those Hereford cows when nobody did that. You know, my dad was probably the first one to bring black cattle here. You know, it's the Highland Hereford area. All you think about is a Hereford cow, yada yada. But I think our families, through that, and we had Hereford cows here too, but they've been somewhat pioneers in reaching out. But I'm saying that to say that when we got these good Angus cattle, it kind of ended everything else, and that's as far as. And Bodie's dad was still obviously very attuned, very astute to what was going on, and you know, these cattle just fit us. They fit our personalities. They fit our country. You know, they just fit our lifestyle, I guess you'd say.
Both of us liked those black F1 cows. One time we thought those. But we had to kind of tune our cattle to our health. And as we did that, we found out that, you know, this is a lot easier. It's going to work out just fine. You know, just, I remember some days.
I'm not going to tell one of those stories.
Let's just go on. Can we have next question, please?
My youth growing up, along those same lines without the information, I can remember pulling 50, 60, 70% of the calves out of heifers, and if we knew what we know today back then, we would have never bred those bulls to heifers. And frankly, today we wouldn't breed them to cattle, but now we can design cattle that will not only calve, you know, easily out of heifers, but also exceed the growth, exceed the marbling, exceed the muscle that we had 20 years ago, let alone have that cow that will replicate all of this, you know, in a pretty harsh environment.
We don't we don't watch our heifers when they calve. We turn them out, and I can't remember the last time I rode through a bunch of heifers checking them. And I know people that keep men on duty just to do that. We haven't done that in
Years.
20 years.
Yeah, probably 20 years.
One of the first trips we made, we went to Mr. Carlton Corbin's, and I'll never forget that. Remember, he had that big tower out in front of his ranch there, and when it came close to bull sale day, he would put a bull in that tower so his neighbors, quote neighbors, would know his sale was coming on. And you just think how, that's been 30 years ago, something like that. Longer, but think how technology has just superseded that tremendously. You know, I mean, you could tell about the Gardiner sale on an iPhone now, you know, and everything about carcasses, female side, sire side, the whole deal. And in those days, we just didn't have that. I remember those bulls, grand total and total. I bet they didn't have any information on them. They were just really nice bulls to look at, but who knew what they were?
Actually, we tested those bulls for Carlton, and they were good bulls, but they were also some of those bulls we couldn't use on heifers at that time. That we got carcass data on total and grand total, and you know, the Corbin family were tremendous pioneers in the Angus industry, and they were good cattle. But what's exciting to me is today our cattle are much, much better, and our cattle will be better in the future than they are today.
I like to look through there, and I'll call Greg or Mark and say, what about, that's a good one. What about, you know, no, they don't want that one, you know, but I enjoy looking at that stuff, trying to figure it out my own self.
We'd go in those pens and we'd mark bull after bull after bull, and I'd keep coming back and say, boy, what's that bull? He says, it's 22. You know, like, what's that bull? Boy, that's 22. Oh, you could go into a pen of bulls and remember every bull in that pen. Just, you know, and these two guys right here are the best I've ever seen at that, you know. And I, besides a talent well honed, I think that's almost a God-given gift. Because these two guys are the best, and you can write that down, you know. So, but I really enjoyed those days.
Good job with these guys.
Well, they're both being humble. They're both very good students of it, and I think any good student, what makes them a good student is, number one, that is their life, and they see more. That's like John said about cattle being able to travel. I mean, that's a given. We've got to have all that. It doesn't matter if he's all these things, but form follows function, he can't do that. But they know, they understand, and they actually push me and help me to think harder. You know, I remember the first time I ever came here, I'm going like, I got to understand what your challenges are and what are the biggest problems that you have to overcome. And we talk about that, and it may be more intuitive now after 30 years than it was back then, because I didn't understand well enough. But we have similar challenges, but they have some different challenges than we do at times. But they understand the cattle business. I mean, they're both being humble. They understand genetics. They understand cattle that will work in this environment, but also cattle that will work for the industry to have a chance to make money, ultimately please the consumer, and build beef demand. I mean, his leadership, their leadership, coincides with their way of life, trying to build better beef products. And I mean, it's been so admirable how they've gone about doing that in a beautiful setting, but a challenging location. One of the things that you both have always committed, not only in your own area, but you've worked hard with your leadership in the industry. And I mean, what are the fruits of that, and why have you worked so hard on that, John?
Well, you know, because I believe in the industry. And what I've done has not certainly been in no way, shape, form, fashion for personal gain. It's just been kind of a situation I was put into. And somewhat at the time, it was a little bit uncomfortable, but I love this industry. It's been my life, you know. So I guess that answers it. Now, that would help me when I was gone, my dear cousin. You know, we've had a great relationship in those ways. So, you know, I guess I would say that the privilege that Jackie and I both have had to serve in our industry, to be in our industry, one of the rewards from that is just the tremendous friendships that we've been able to establish with our peers, even with their children, and just the fact that we've got some really tremendous friends that are our dear friends now, and I can take that a step farther, having had the privilege, so to say, to watch a lot of these younger kids grow up that are now managing big ranches in Texas and whatnot, that I knew as children, to get to see them to mature into tremendous talent that we have. And you know, Mark asked earlier what I see in this industry. One of the things I see is the young people that are coming on have far greater talent than any of us, most of us, not somebody like Mark or Bodie, but a lot of people, you know, that they're just tremendously talented. They know the genetic side, they know the nutrition side of our business. They're really good with in the futures. I mean, they know the business through and through much better than I ever did or will. And that's been a great satisfaction to me, to see these young people stepping up into positions of leadership and doing an excellent job.
Both of your families were charter members, founding members, stockholders of U.S. Premium Beef. Has that changed any of your thinking on how any of the things you've done, or what led you to that? I mean,
well, I think it made me especially realize the value of genetics at the end game. You know, I mean, we paid, as you well know, some really nice premiums early on when that choice select spread was pretty wide. It was tremendous premiums, you know, for the same animal as it cost just like breeding a longhorn bull to a cow. I mean, the value of that animal is tremendous, you know. And we fed enough, long enough, where we had a really good roadmap. We knew just, maybe not quite as closely as the Holsteins, but we knew exactly pretty much what those cattle were going to gain and how long to feed them. First of all, we always keep some bull calves, and we sell them. We have a client list, you might say, that every year they take X many number of bulls. I think the drought's going to probably change. It has changed our list considerably. We had the McCoy family that were our neighbors over here, and they took replacement heifers from us for years. They're really a nice premium. That worked out. And our steers, you know, like I said earlier, we fed them a number of years in Kansas and all over, really, both of us, and then sold them on the video. And really, to answer your question, I don't think either one of us has a really stringent, strict marketing philosophy. We kind of got to do what we have to do. If we have traps, we can wean them. If we don't have traps, we might have to go with them straight off the cow. It just kind of depends on the weather and our situation.
Kind of these last 3 or 4 years, you have an idea what you want to do, but you're not going to get there. And you see that along about this time of year. You see where and then you got to go changing stuff and either do this or do that, or you know, it's been a good while since we've had a good normal where we're going to ship the 15th of September like we used to, and calves are going to weigh 8, and no worries, everything's good. It seemed like we've been fighting our heads for a while, you know, just change it. You have 4 truckloads of steers. Well, now you got to hurry to put together 2 or 1 sometimes that are the same, you know, that are the same age.
And we talked about that this morning. There's just been a lot of circumstances that were really beyond our control as to what we've been able to do.
Obviously, moisture and just the environment's always a challenge for all of us, but what other challenges do you see just in your own operation in the industry?
You know, I guess, Mark, if it rain, I see more opportunity right now than I see challenge, barring the weather. You know, that's our greatest challenge, I think. And yeah, obviously we have challenges as an industry, but I think there's a tremendous amount of opportunity in front of us. But our cow herd is what it is because of the Gardiner influence, you know. And I don't know how you say this, but we have a nice set of cows, you know. And they work in this country. They're moderate in a lot of ways. I can't say enough about the Gardiner influence on, and I can't quantify it and say, okay, it's added this many pounds in the feed yard or this, and how can you quantify that, you know, you get 96% of your heifers bred back? You see what I mean? There's so many things that, pieces in the puzzle, if you will, that I don't think you can put a hard figure on this is what this has done for us. I think you've got to look, to me, you look at ranching is not, you got to see the big picture. And we're not looking at the big picture today. We're looking at the big picture 2 years from now, hopefully. You know, and I think if you're not looking ahead, you're way behind. So, you know.
And that's stated incredibly well. And, you know, when you look at that big picture and you sit in my chair, I mean, when we make matings today, we'll be collecting embryos tomorrow. And so those cattle, we put the embryos in, they'll be born 283 days later. You know, I mean, we're 3 years away from when those calves on your ranch can be created. So our family takes our job incredibly serious. And one time I had some folks ask me, why don't you use this young bull or that young bull? And you know, my mentors, Henry Gardiner and Roy Wallace, you know, Mark, you can't afford for these people to practice on them. You've got to be as predictable as possible and have as much accuracy as possible. And so let's say that this bull is going to be the next great one. We have to be sure before we bear down and use him. That's one of the blessings of being able to work with people that do this for a living, to know what their challenges are and to see the big picture and to keep our eye on the ball to replicate the whole process.
Because, you know, when I first came out here, we shipped one day in October and our cows all left and we were done until we bred into the spring. And that is so drastically different from how we operate now. And I think we really started owning our cattle through and doing a lot of different things when we started getting
After, yeah, we did.
you know, we started buying our bulls and seeing the genetics and seeing what they were doing and being able to put our hands around it. And so it changed completely the way we do business. And so if the same thing is true of our kids, they're going to have phenomenal opportunities. There's just going to be a lot of sidebar businesses, I think, come out of that for ways to make money because they know so much more, I guess is what. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do. It's interesting.